The Ukrainian soldiers surrendered, pleading for mercy from the Russian forces. Russia gained control of 4 additional settlements in the Kharkiv region. The UK might have dispatched special forces to Ukraine. The Kremlin called for a proposal to replace the Egyptian defense minister. Egypt supported South Africa's lawsuit against Israel in the International Court. The headlines will cover notable updates on the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Recent reports from AIF indicate that Ilya Guda, a Ukrainian neo-Nazi sympathizer known as Koloma, immediately threw down his rifle, dropped to his knees, and shouted in Russian, "I surrender, spare me!" Upon seeing Russian attack groups advancing. Guda was a member of the punitive Battalion Kharkiv, an organization considered terrorist by Russia, recently deployed to the Kharkiv region. The Russian attack caught Ukraine off guard. To counter the advance of Russian armed forces, Ukrainian command mobilized punitive units of nationalist militias to the front lines. However, these soldiers proved ineffective in combat, leading to retreats and surrenders as gunfire erupted and Russian assault groups stormed trenches. Kharkiv mercenaries either fled or surrendered. According to information from Telegram channels, Russian nationalist gunmen, like Koloma, had been involved in armed attacks on villages in the Maros region of Russian territory since March. Following his capture, Koloma confessed to his group's mission, composition, armaments, and supply lines. The Russian military announced control over settlements Gadi, Krasno, Morok, and Olovo in the Kharkiv region. Additionally, manpower and equipment losses were reported for Ukrainian Mechanized Brigade No. 1, 14 and Territorial Defense Brigades No. 110 and 113, with up to 100 Ukrainian soldiers, 2 tanks, 1 CZC armored fighting vehicle, and 4 other vehicles lost on May 11th. The Russian Defense Ministry claimed control over 5 settlement areas in the Kharkiv region, including Borisova, Ugo, Stov, Pla, Panya, and Strich, on May 10th. In total, since 2024, Moscow has controlled 547 square kilometers of new territories adjoining the Kharkiv region. Governor Kopp announced on social media that 4,073 people were evacuated a day after Russian forces unexpectedly attacked and claimed many villages in the region. 2 casualties were reported, a 63-year-old man killed in a shelling in Hoke village and a 38-year-old injured in VK border town, home to 3,000 residents. On May 10th, Russia announced the launch of Operation Kharkiv, advancing into areas vacated by Russian forces nearly 2 years prior. President Zellensky stated on May 11th that Ukrainian forces were counterattacking in border villages. Emphasizing the need for a proactive military stance, Zellensky urged allies to expedite weapon deliveries. Ukrainian intelligence repeatedly warned of potential Russian attacks on northeastern border areas to capitalize on the unfulfilled weaponry in the $61 billion U.S. aid package. New footage from Ukraine confirmed a successful Russian military attack on the Zhyachan airport in the Dnipro region. The target was a Ukrainian military airport near the Manva settlement in the Dnipro region. A Russian UAV reconnaissance aircraft captured 2 Ukrainian Mi-2 military helicopters being attacked. After the initial strike, the helicopters burst into flames. Russian military units approached the target within approximately 75 kilometers. These attacks were coordinated by UAV reconnaissance aircraft, flying over the target area, but Ukrainian air defense did not detect them. Recent reports indicated that Russian troops had obtained military spoils, including the FV-105 armored vehicle. From Ukrainian frontline positions, Russian soldiers showcased the captured FV-105 Sunan armored vehicle, nearly intact, at a secret location. The FV-105 Sunan is the command variant of the CVRT armored vehicle series, equipped with a 7.62 mm machine gun to counter enemy infantry on the battlefield. Furthermore, numerous FV-105 Sunan and other variants, such as FV-103 Spartan and FV-104 Samaritan, have been integrated into the Ukrainian Army since October 22. In a media interview, U.S. Special Operations Command Chief Brian Fanton discussed restructuring plans for the Green Berets, drawing lessons from British Special Forces experiences in Ukraine. He suggested that British Special Forces might be operating in Ukraine. Fanton stated that the U.S. Green Berets needed organizational restructuring due to modern warfare's increasing technological nature. For instance, a 12-person team might require cybersecurity experts and Air Force pilots. This idea stemmed from experiences in Ukraine, mostly through British Special Forces guidance. Russian engineers developed and deployed a unique tank defense system called Hedgehog to bolster Russian tanks' resilience against Ukraine's 40 UAV suicide drone attacks. According to Avia Pro, the Hedgehog-equipped tanks feature special armor plates and screens that effectively repel aerial bullet penetration. These improvements allow Russian armored vehicles to withstand large-scale attacks from Ukrainian UAV suicide drones, minimizing damage and maintaining combat effectiveness on the battlefield. The protected tanks not only survived 40 airstrikes but also continued to fulfill combat missions. President Putin proposed Andrei Bupy as the replacement for Defense Minister Chog. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov explained the appointment, stating that BOP would be best suited to address the current economic needs of the Russian military budget. Russia's military budget has rapidly increased from 3 to 6.7 trillion rubles since the start of the Ukraine conflict over 2 years ago. While not severe for the Russian economy, the situation is beginning to resemble the late Soviet era when military spending reached 7.4 trillion rubles of GDP. Peskov emphasized the critical nature of this situation, requiring an appropriate response from the government. He praised BOP's successful leadership of the Ministry of Economic Development and his long tenure as the first Deputy Prime Minister's economic aide. Meanwhile, Shoigu was appointed as the Secretary of the Russian National Security Council on May 12. Commenting on the appointment, Peskov stated that Shoigu would retain his position as the Deputy Chairman of the Military Industrial Commission. Shoigu's extensive knowledge of the defense industry gained through deep involvement in Russia's military-industrial complex. Particularly understanding the production rates of specific enterprises qualifies him for this role. Turning to Middle Eastern news, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, in an interview on CBS's Face, The Nation on May 12, stated that Israel's full-scale attack on Gaza City would lead to chaos. He also indicated that Hamas could not be eradicated entirely. Blinken affirmed U.S. agreement with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's statement that Israeli forces killed 14,000 Hamas members and caused 16,000 civilian casualties in clashes since last year's conflict erupted. He warned that a full-scale assault and capture of Gaza City did not guarantee an end to the Hamas threat. Blinken suggested that Israel might face a resurgence of remaining armed Hamas members once they withdrew. Additionally, Blinken mentioned that Hamas members had returned to some areas in northern Gaza where Israel previously declared successful occupation. Egypt announced its support for South Africa's lawsuit against Israel at the International Court of Justice regarding alleged genocide in Gaza. The Egyptian Foreign Ministry's statement on May 12 highlighted the support amid Israel's attacks on civilian targets in Gaza. Egypt accused Israel of targeting civilians and systematically destroying infrastructure, forcing Palestinians to evacuate. Hamas commended Egypt's action, urging all countries worldwide to take similar steps to support Palestinian justice. Israel's military announced the opening of a new humanitarian aid crossing and ceasefire with U.S. coordination. In an Israeli military statement, the West Iris crossing was opened in the area between Israel and northern Gaza. This crossing is located west of the AIDS crossing and closer to the coastline. The statement clarified that the RS crossing was built by the Israeli military to enhance humanitarian aid routes to Gaza, particularly in northern Gaza lands. Earlier in April, the Israeli government temporarily allowed humanitarian aid shipments through the northern Gaza border, marking the first reopening of the Aris crossing since the conflict erupted in October 2023. A fire broke out on May 12 at a large shopping center in Warszawa, Poland. The Marv SK44 shopping complex, with 1,400 stores, is located in the Blek district. It is a business hub for many Vietnamese traders in the capital. Firefighters stated that over 80% of the Marv SK44 shopping complex was engulfed in flames, and 50 teams, including chemical and environmental rescue specialists, were conducting rescue operations. Police reported no casualties so far. Authorities also issued warnings to Warszawa residents about the fire and advised them to close windows in their homes. Media footage showed thick black smoke and flames engulfing the area. Thank you for your viewership, and goodbye.